Good morning and thank you for staying with us. i24News, your morning edition. Now to our next topic. North and South Korea held their first high-level talks in 7 years in an apparent effort to improve strained relations. The talks came as South Korea and the United States prepare for another round of military drills that have angered Pyongyang. Now to hear more about it, we're joined in studio by i24News correspondent Danny Swibel. Danny, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Before we break it down, let's take a look at your report.
The discussions in the border truce village of Panmunjom had no fixed agenda, but were to cover a range of major issues, including the planned February 20th to 25th reunion event between families from the two Koreas. It was the first such high-level sit-down between the two sides since 2007 and came a day before U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's arrival in Seoul for a brief visit focused on North Korea. The South's delegation is believed to focus on ensuring the meeting of separated families goes ahead as scheduled, while the North is likely to make another push for South Korea to cancel annual military exercises with the United States, which are scheduled to begin February 24th. Pyongyang views the drills as rehearsals for invasion and has repeatedly demanded Seoul call them off, warning at one point of an unimaginable Holocaust if they went ahead. Seoul and Washington have made it clear there is no question of this year's drills being canceled, but U.S. officials have indicated they will be toned down. The South's delegation, led by a top National Security Council official, said the South was entering talks with an open attitude to explore the chance of opening up a new chapter on the Korean Peninsula, but did not mention whether North Korea's nuclear program would be discussed. Because the Korean War ended with a ceasefire rather than a peace treaty over 60 years ago, North and South Korea technically remain at war.
Joined by i24News correspondent Danny Swibel, who brought us the story. Now, Danny, this is a very, different type of behavior from the lingo that we've heard, earlier on this year. This is almost like a charm offensive, isn't it?
We could definitely call this a charm offensive.
Yeah.
And I think Seoul and the United States are familiar with the way that the North Koreans operate. Sometimes they're doing military provocations or talking military provocations, and then they come to the table with something friendly, perhaps to lure the South Koreans and the Americans in, maybe to a peace negotiation, maybe to some concessions.
The North Korea, was it a few months ago that they said that, they were going to start launching missiles, missiles towards the United States and Seoul, and it was a lot of posturing.
Yes, they're very unhappy with the fact that these new drills are going to happen between the U.S. and South Korea. And these happen every year. The North Koreans know this. But every year, this really upsets them. And then they retaliate with some sort of rhetoric that really tries to scare the West. And it really does do the job of kind of shaking up, especially the people in Seoul, who do not want to hear this because, again, this is their northern neighbor. And so the South Koreans came to this kind of a negotiating table, if you will, to just gauge who is really behind some of these words and what do they really have in mind. You can never really tell with the North Koreans.
And clear, but there is something monumental about the fact that, South and North Korea are sitting down at a table and talking, isn't it?
That's right. And North Korea actually was one who initiated this. So the South Koreans are definitely happy to go to the table just to see again, like, who is this Kim Jong-un? What's really behind him? Does he really have control of the country? And they're going to talk about the potential meeting of the families. Now, the meeting of these families happens to coincide with the drills. So North Korea, it seems, will use this to say, hey, if you really want this to go through, maybe consider stopping the drills. They always have something, it seems, behind any of their actions.
And just a reminder of viewers, these reunions between the families, they come about every 4 or 5 years or something like that. But these are members of families that haven't seen each other or don't see each other for dozens of years.
That's right. They've been separated for years, and they continue to be separated. And so this is a big opportunity for them to meet and for North Korea and South Korea to perhaps engage each other. A lot of South Koreans before 2008 used to go to a resort in North Korea, and it was actually very good for the North Korean economy. So they're hoping that maybe this could be a step to help bring them together. But North Korea, with them, you can never really tell, and South Korea is always very, a little bit nervous to ever go too far in.
And finally, John Kerry in Seoul, right? What do we expect? First of all, the American reaction to this, and what can we expect him to say in his visit?
Well, this is one of many stops in Asia. He'll be in China, actually, in the next few days. He's going to definitely be talking about, surprise, the North Korean threat, how to proceed in the future with them. The release of Kenneth Bay, the American who's still there, they're going to discuss that. They're going to discuss what's going to be happening soon with the military drills. They have a bunch of things, but it always focuses on definitely North Korea. They'll also be talking about the relationship with Japan, because right now South Korea and Japan have experienced increasing tensions. Even though they're technically allies, they're not so friendly either with each other.
But John Kerry, clearly taking a time off from, his Middle Eastern hopping to try and resolve negotiations in another part of the world. Fascinating stuff. Danny, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay.